All right, there they are, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a deep dive video, something I've been working on for a while. I know some people are concerned with me touching this topic, and I understand that. The reality is, it's something I'm thinking about while I'm looking at other cases, and it helps me process what's actually happened and why people do what they do. So, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to open up the best that I can about this subject. And really just explain to you the inside knowledge that I do have about Alex. I've never talked about him with you guys really. I think more than anything avoided it. And it's because it's a hard thing to speak on. And I don't know if I ever had the time to process where I was at with Alex because I had my own relationship with him. And you know, it's still kind of unfathomable to me how this all happened. So, what we're going to do first is we're going to actually break down the criteria of what a psychopath is. Okay. And I want you guys to understand why this is important. The reason why it's important because these character traits, and it's very clear that you do not have to be a criminal to be a psychopath. Okay. This is a big deal because people have psychopath tendency or can have multiple things that check this list. That doesn't mean that they're going to be a criminal. It just means that they literally are classified or not. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not any of those things. Okay. What I am, though, is someone who dives deep into things and learns in a very different way. And so hopefully we can all learn together. So I'm going to pull up this article first for us. And we are going to talk about what a psychopath is. And then I have a entire list of how we're going to go through. And this is where you guys will get everything in context. Okay. So I want you guys to have a lot of context. Okay, here we go. No, do not sign me up here. All right, good. You guys can see it. All right, so here we go. So the simple ways of putting it is narcissism, impulsivity, antisocial behavior, lack of guilt, and no empathy. And we'll break all of these down. And this is something we actually did with Chad as well. These are broad terms, right? So there's not an exact way. Some people fit into these categories and you're not a psychopath. So don't freak out if you are, have a, antisocial, something like that. Don't freak out. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see on the smaller screen. But here's what it is: antisocial behavior, narcissism, superficial charm, impulsivity, callous or unemotional traits, lack of guilt, lack of empathy, and lack of fear. One study found that 29% of the general population exhibit one or more. See, I told you guys, don't freak out. But only 0.6 are likely to fit the definition of a psychopath. So there is a test, and this is what we are basing our thing on today. The test that we are talking about is a test that they give to psychopaths called the PCL-R. It's a 20-item inventory that assesses whether the individual exhibits certain traits and behaviors that could indicate psychopathy. Now, this is the only reason they have this is because these are the traits that give them that you have to have some way of narrowing it down, right? Again, people can be narcissistic, doesn't mean they're a psychopath. People could be antisocial, there's all kinds of different things. So let's not go into this place of freaking out about the diagnoses here. We're going to go into some deep stuff that you guys don't know about with Alex. And that way there is an understanding of how I see that he meets these exact things. Okay. So, and the question started with, how did this happen? To, okay, are these all psychopaths? Because this is all criminal acts. And here we are with these exact lists of people who don't feel pain, who don't have the emotions. So we're going to get into it. Okay. Now, I have this right here. Let me share this with you first so you guys know where we're at. I'll remove this one and share this one. because I want you guys to have an understanding of how I broke this down. Okay. I made a little Google Doc for us. Okay. Now, in this doc, I wrote down all the stuff that it has, and we're going to go through each one of these things. Okay. So we have a lot of things that we're going to go through, and each one of these things I can give you guys a better understanding. Okay. So that's what we're going into. That's what we're going to get into secondly. But first, let's go back to our article, and that way you guys understand what we're defining here and why this is a big deal. Okay. So, superficial charm. Psychopaths are often likable on the surface. They're usually good conversationalists and share stories that make them look good. Psychopaths may be funny and charismatic, and as well as making them look good leaders, whether it is a business or a cult. Now, superficial charm is not something I would attribute to Alex Cox. And what I mean by that is superficial charm to me is someone who, everyone finds them charming. Alex was not a charming human being. Alex was kind of like this dirty guy who knew his niche and knew that he was who he was. It's hard to explain this, but the way that Alex carried himself was he was very, very clearly, he didn't change for people. He didn't try to charm you. He might have had some kind of charm, and I use the word charm because we all know if we think of charming, what charming really rings in our head. Like charming is very specific. You know someone who's charming. This is not Alex Cox. This is not a well-groomed man. This was not someone who took care of himself physically, or in any type of way for his, you could tell he didn't take care of his body. He didn't take care of his mind. He didn't take care of himself very well. You could just kind of define him as to me, kind of raggedy. Like he didn't put effort in, right? And so there's like the way that someone carries themselves is simple, like how people dress, how people present themselves. You never got that from Alex. You're never getting, oh, that's a charming guy. Now, when you talk to Alex, he was somebody who would give, use his comedy and his sense of humor, let's call it that, to kind of, give, I guess, break the walls. That's how he knew how to be. So he kind of used that kind of thing. So that was, I think that was his way, but not the word charming. So this does not classify Alex Cox. Superficial charm. Again, we talked about this in the Chad Daybell video. Neither one of them were superficially charming. It was just more, I guess some people listen to them. So, I mean, I guess you're right, but I think in a classical sense, no, Alex was not charming and Alex was not a leader. I'll put it that way. Okay. Was his humor a crutch or a defense mechanism? Probably both. I don't know. I don't think he obviously liked himself very much. So, and we'll get into that because that's a big deal and that's a big part of it. Pathological lying. Now, we know for a fact, based off of just the cases ourselves, that he became a pathological liar to everyone around him because of the criminal acts that they were committing. So we know that Alex told, I think it was Ray, very clearly, I don't have Lori's number. I don't know who that is. He was willing to cover. So I guess in this way, yes, he was a pathological liar in certain ways. Growing up, this is another thing we need to understand, and this goes back a little bit further down. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, well, one of the things on my list that we wrote, and I'll have to show it to you in a second. It is, I want to know the word. Well, it's the recluse thing. It's the lonely person. So this is really what it is he was like, he came around every once in a while. Alex was not a normal visitor in the home. This was not somebody you were seeing all the time. When we were growing up in Texas, I did not see Alex that often. Okay. This was not somebody that I grew up around. I know who he is. Obviously he was my uncle, but he was not around all the time. Now, when we moved to Arizona, that changed and I saw him more often, but still, he was always an isolated person. He'd come in his own timing, he'd come late, leave early kind of thing, right? So there was really he wasn't somebody that you would classify as, um, where are we at? Sorry. As somebody who was around. And he, I don't know. We're gonna get into all of it. We're just gonna stay on track because I'm gonna lose my train of thought. Sorry. Okay, now this one's really interesting to me. Grandiose sense of self-worth. A psychopath has the inflated view of themselves. They see themselves as important and entitled. Psychopaths often feel justified to live according to their own rules, and they think the laws don't apply to them. Bingo. Now, this is what's even weirder. I don't think that Alex was this way his entire life. We just heard, and I took a lot of inside information from when we listened to the trials. And when we specifically listened to the patriarchal blessing, this said a lot to me. And the patriarchal blessing was a big deal for one major reason, is that this is someone who did not have a lot of worth, who someone came around and said, hey man, you are this chosen, special warrior man. You are so important and you have this big, important mission. And so this is what's interesting because he fits this towards the end. And I think he did not have self-worth. And I think that that's why it was such an opposite flip. He went from feeling like a dirty, cast out. You need to remember that he was literally, what's the word? I'm sorry. What is the word? Not disbarred, Colby. He was excommunicated from the LDS church multiple times. So this is someone who couldn't even have that in his own faith because he kept breaking the rules. So this is not somebody that, first of all, tried very hard to really change. Okay. And this is not somebody who had stability. Okay. This is somebody who kept going back and forth and probably had a lot of self issues, a lot. Okay. That's going to always be something that we need to understand, is that this is not somebody who was fulfilled in life, who felt loved, who felt exactly. And when somebody came around as a cult leader and told him some BS that you are worth it, his brain accepted it without thinking too much about it. And we're going to get into that as well. So yes, towards the end of his life, I think he put too much self-worth on himself. Now he's this chosen one to carry out a mission. And the mission is seriously be a mass M. Like go do all of this horrible, horrendous things because this is what your mission is. Okay. That's a horrible thing. But I do believe at the end of his life, he did start to inflate himself. And yes, this is what's weird. You need to understand some of these things do not just exist of all time. Some of these things are applicable to where someone ends up, right? We talk about people who have a God complex. That can be developed. They might have always had some narcissism, but at some point they get a God complex where now it's like above and beyond what we have seen before. Okay. Manipulative. Psychopaths are really good at getting other people to do what they want. They may play on a person's guilt while lying to get someone else to do their work for them. Now, you guys are not really going to believe me, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't remember Alex being very manipulative. He was actually one of the more forward people that I knew in our family. He was one of the more upfront. He said too much, and he was sometimes too honest in that way. He was not someone who really went out of his way to manipulate people. And that might sound weird. I'm talking personal experiences here and what I had seen. It wasn't like he was like Lori. Lori was an emotional manipulator. She manipulated Charles emotionally, me emotionally, Tylee emotionally. Everyone around her got a part. She knew how to play people very well, and she had a gift for it. I really do believe that this does not apply to Alex. I do not believe that he was as manipulative. A better point is that he was more gullible. Exactly. He was actually the one being preyed more upon. See, again, we go back to that point. He did not have a self-worth, grandiose self-worth. He did not instinctually have that. He did not, I don't think he actually liked himself very much. I think he was somebody who endlessly ruined his own life and constantly was doing the wrong things and constantly doing things that hurt himself. And therefore, he probably had a very deep dynamic of self worth and self hatred. And it's really important to understand that self worth comes as we need to remember being in childhood, how important and formative it really truly is in building up that. But you can develop these things later on in life if you're willing to go and get the help you need. And, sometimes just self reflect, because I think a lot of people are aware of their problems. They just don't actually do anything about their problems because they don't think they know what to do. Lack of remorse is an absolute dinging. Okay. And this is seriously probably the hardest and worst thing we're going to have to talk about tonight. And I'm going to read this definition just so we understand. So, a lack of remorse, a psychopath doesn't care how their behavior affects other people. They may forget about something that hurts someone. They may insist that the others are overreacting when their feelings are hurt. Ultimately, psychopaths do not experience guilt causing other people pain. In fact, they often rationalize their behavior and blame other people. This is a 1000% applicable piece. We know for a fact, okay, and in my research of other cases, the more that I dig, the more that I watch, the more that I see about other people, you realize that a lot of people who are in this category, who do these things, usually have this number one trait, and it is a lack of remorse. I'm going to answer what Aaron said. I'm new to this channel community, but I love it so much. It's totally unique on YouTube, in my opinion. Thanks, Colby and everyone. Thank you, Aaron. Glad to have you. And we're going to address this right now, too. This is a big one. Am I mistaken? But did he not have a major brain injury? This can lead to real change in character, especially in the frontal lobe was involved. Now, I agree with you. And yes, you are right. This can. What I'm going to tell you is this. Yes, from what I know, okay, this is not factual. I do not have the documents. This is all family information that I understand, that Alex did have a bad car accident when he was 16 years old. And a piece of his ear even fell off, I think, or had to get reattached. And he was like bedridden to the point where he couldn't move, because they said if you move too quickly, you could sever your what's that called? Not your spinal cord, but your something back here. I can't believe I forgot the name of it. So there was a traumatic brain injury, possibly. Okay. Now let's go back to this point though. The what we'd have to study and go into is understanding that criminal acts and character changing from the age of 16, going and being a 50-something-year-old man, and towards the end of your life, in the last year of your life, you actually start committing heinous crimes. You become a literal mass killer. That's not going to, and I understand the behavioral things. I understand that there is other factors that we can talk about those things. But at the end of the day, he went his entire life without really participating here. Okay. And this is what we're going to get to, is some of these factors exist from an early point. Now, we have some examples from Alex of lack of remorse, and the lack of remorse goes past just the actual crime. Lack of remorse is applicable to the simplicity, right? Like hurting someone's feelings and not feeling anything. Having all kinds of lack of empathy across the board, I think has always existed. Alex was not a feelings person. Me and Alex got into a physical fight when I was in 9th grade, so 14 years old. It was about to go to blows, and then everybody intervened. So I was being held like this by everybody, and Alex was on top of me in a UFC hold. And if I would have had my hands, I would have been swinging on him as hard as I could. So, I mean, that just to give you guys an example, like not too many people fight their uncles. It's not something I would call normal to fight a grown man. I was a rail at 14. I was really skinny. I was probably about 140 tops. I was playing football, and I just had my growth spurt. So I was like super skinny. I was always strong, but not to the point where I could have fought, a grown man who had his whole entire body on top of me. So yeah, I mean, just to give you an example, like that was about to happen. And like if I had a nephew even attack me, my first thought would be to just do anything I could to deter him, and I would never engage in that fight, right? Like fighting fighting someone who's even like, first of all, your nephew again, but secondly, engaging in a fight with someone that young is insane. So let's just give you guys an example. Like these are my experiences. That was always something that stuck with me is getting into a literal physical altercation to a point where we could have, I mean, I would have lit him up. That was what I wanted to do. But obviously our family stepped in, and there was a lot going on there. So yeah, that's a whole nother story for another time. But a lack of remorse in the sense of he didn't give a crap that we got in a fight. There was nothing that, came to that point. And it's just one of those things where he always had that. And another big example is, him being, a lot of times, and this is a sensitive subject, as you guys know, a lot of times what will happen with psychopaths, and this is why we bring up Dexter, don't get mad at me yet, listen, is it starts with people doing stuff to animals when it's cruel and it's things of this nature. They will do this behavior and practice and do things on animals. And, Alex had already done this to dogs in the past and had literally left dogs out in the desert, things like that. So this wasn't something that he had a care, like the care for a living being really did not exist fully in this man's head. So lack of remorse that I've seen probably across the board for most people who commit these types of crimes is the lack of remorse, and they really don't feel it. And I think we have a hard time conceptualizing this. Okay. I have a really hard time. The people who have feelings really struggle to understand the absolute absence of empathy. We're not talking about like a choice or like someone who's just mean or having a bad day. I'm talking about try to put yourself in a position where you don't feel that feeling at all. This is how they operate. This is how these people who have this lack of empathy have. They don't care at all. It doesn't cross their mind twice. They don't lose sleep. I have to bring it up because this is the number one sign to me of the lack of empathy. And this is very hard and graphic in this sense. I'm not going to say the stuff, but we're going to talk about what happened. After Alex did what he did to my family, the first thing he did is go eat food. And then he went and watched stuff. I mean, he went and immediately pleasured himself right after doing it. I mean, it's as sick as it gets. It's as disgusting as it gets. And it shows you where his mind was. He did not feel a thing. He went to go have food and do that afterwards. After doing that, right? Something to where almost any other human being would literally be unable to even do. He did what he did. Exactly, Tess. And this is why we're talking about this. This is a human being who did not feel anything, right? There you go. You need to understand, this is why we're hitting on this so hard. People who show this tendency, they genuinely are not, that's not crossing their minds. And this is why a lot of people who have this specific trait are the ones who actually end up unaliving people because they don't feel guilty. They don't feel guilty. And even if they actually go and they if they engage in that and they do that, a lot of times they're also more upfront about it. They're willing to talk about it. At least in a lot of the cases that I have seen and studied, even if they try to justify it with what they said they justified it with, it doesn't change. They don't feel bad. They're not going to spend their life going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. They really don't feel it. And so I don't believe that he believed the Lori Chad train the most, but I don't think it mattered because he probably would have done it without sweat off his back. Okay. Shallow effect. Psychopaths don't show many emotions, at least not genuine ones. They may appear cold, unemotional most of the time, 100% Alex, but it serves them well. A psychopath might exhibit a dramatic display of feelings. These are usually short lived and quite shallow. When I can think of a way to describe Alex Cox to you growing up, is he was absolutely always the same. Obviously, we got in that fight. Obviously, I saw him angry. I don't think I'd really seen him cry unless there was some church thing that he was crying about. But really, at the end of the day, like, this was someone that always was really the same. You know, someone that every time you see them, they're exactly the same. Like, they don't really have up or down days. They're just kind of neutrally always really bland. That was kind of how he is. That's why I had to say it definitely hits on him. Just not an emotional person. And it's the exact opposite of how everybody else was. Everybody else was really emotional and like really driven by emotions. And he's just like kind of nothing. John Cena. Okay. There's nothing really going on in his mind, at least emotionally. And there was no emotions to me ever really expressed. Right. And I'm going to give you guys the story. Yeah, exactly. Flat, dull, whatever you want to call it. Just nothing. He didn't go up and down. And I'm going to give you guys a story in a minute on this. Whoops, I went too far up. Sorry. We're going to go over this as well. So he definitely, he came to, this was the first time as an adult in any way, shape, or form that I spent time with Alex. Again, I had not seen Alex a lot in my life until he showed up around when I was getting married, and he helped with the wedding. He was so helpful. He was like willing to do everything. And it was weird because I just was like, dang, like he really wants to be a part of this, and he's just not around a lot. So it's different. So, but anyway, he came to Hawaii before that when I was 18, and he came for a week and he was like off. And so the first time I'd really spent any alone time. So we were in Kauai and he came and he and I showed him around. So I took him, just me and him, to go to like the beach. I took him to multiple beaches around the island, like all on the other side we were on the North Shore. I take him all the way to the other side of the island, like show him everything that I can possibly show him. And that was like one-on-one time. And so obviously we talked, and, he spent a lot of time kind of like telling me, you could do like whatever you want. Cause at that point I was trying to figure out my life. I was, figuring out if I was going to go in the military, like what I was wanting to do. So he was like, you would feel like that was the first uncle moment that I had with him, where he was like actually invested ever in saying anything about me in my life. So me and him talked through it. He was very vulgar. And again, at 18, I was pretty vulgar as well. I'm not going to even lie to you. Like, obviously I had a really different immature mindset at 18 years old, but I mean, we were pretty equal out as far as maturity goes. And, but he was a vulgar human, and that was just the general sense. It's like, he did not filter himself. And I think his love for, comedy really gave him an outlet of, I can be myself here. And so I think that vulgarness that he already had naturally allowed him to have a place where other people can be like vulgar. So he would go to stand up and do that. I bring that up because he was like that though all the time. Like he was vulgar, and he said things he wasn't supposed to, just stuff you don't say to especially your younger teenage nephew. Don't care if they're 18 or not. Like, there's just things you don't talk about with. There was an oversharing there of his experiences and the things that he had, done with women and things of that nature. So that's a lot to hear, even if you're an adult, you don't want to go to that place. Exactly. No boundaries, 100%. Yeah. And then he had an obsession with her to do whatever she said and did. So we'll get to that point. Okay. Parasitic lifestyle. Psychopaths often have sob stories where they can't earn money or might often report being victimized by others. Then they take advantage of the kindness of others, depending on them financially. And a psychopath uses people to get whatever they can, regardless of how the other person may feel. Now, this is a weird way to explain this. I don't think that he was trying to grab everybody. I think he just depended on others to take care of him a lot of times. Like Alex was always living with someone, Alex was always with someone else. He finally got on his own feet and went and got his job and got his own house, but like he was constantly he was just always living at someone's house. Like that's what I think the parasitic lifestyle to me was, is like no interest in like doing something and being on your own and doing your own lifestyle, but just letting other people take care of you. And even if you're lonely, I think it's just one of those things where it's you have a pattern there. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And not being able to go out on your own and be ambitious and continue to get better and continue to progress in some way, shape, or form. I think honestly he gave up on himself a long, long time ago. I don't know when that was. Again, you guys know when I was born in 96 and I didn't become conscious till I was like 4 to 5. So it's not like I can give you too much um information on him as a person. I mean, looking back, I've read some of the stuff that's happened, but those are as much speculation as we could possibly make. I mean, we're going to get into it in the next part, but from what I saw, the parasitic lifestyle did not it was more about getting anything you possibly could because the selfishness that he wanted it for himself. So that's what I would say the parasitic lifestyle was for him. Poor behavioral controls. Psychopath struggles to follow rules, laws, policy much of the time. Even if they set out to follow the rules, a psychopath usually doesn't stick to them for long. Now, this one, it's the lawlessness that Lori and Alex both carry. They do not like the law. They don't like the law. They don't like rules. I don't know what it is with having such a disdain. They really don't like anything to do with rules. And that alone right there is definitely a recipe for disaster, right? Because there's no respect for it. You believe that the law is wrong and you believe that inherently the boundaries that were set, exactly, the boundaries that were set should not exist to you. And that is where that lawlessness comes from. Yes, this applied 100%. Yes. Exactly. Again, this goes back to the selfishness, the narcissism. We're hitting a lot of these points that is on the rating system. Remember, the reason why we're reading this is because this is how they evaluate. If they were to sit in front of someone else and tell you, they would assess him and they would be able to know based off of all this stuff if he meets this criteria. That's what we're doing. Okay. This one, and we're just going to have to be as blunt here as possible because the context matters and I don't know how else to say it. So, promiscuous sexual behavior. Since they don't care about the people around them, a psychopath is likely to cheat on their partners. They may engage in unprotected S with strangers, and they may use S as a way to get what they want. S is not an emotional or loving act. That's off the chart. It's unfortunate because that's something that he overwhelmingly presented himself as. And there's so many different reasons why we could get into that. I don't really personally want to. I will just tell you that this was a pattern of him. And the thing he wanted to do the most was have that over anything else. I don't know if he desired a real crave. I don't know if he craved a relationship. I don't know if he craved what love's supposed to be and like the amount of work that you put into it and the building of a relationship. I think he genuinely just wanted to have that connection to someone for that short amount of time. And he would do that with lots of different things. And again, the biggest problem that I had is growing up now is I can't believe the things of the exposure from your uncle to you and how I can't imagine allowing that to happen to any other child. And I don't care how old they are, even if your child gets into their 30s and 40s, there's just things you don't talk about, and there's things you don't present to, your, people in your family, your nephews, your nieces. You don't say this stuff. So, how do I put this without saying it? Because YouTube is so sensitive about it. A lot of pee sharing, a lot of ladies of the night, a lot of online across these relationships, and a lot of girls from other countries coming back with him. That's what I'm going to tell you. This is the most off the chart part. And this is where he hits, again, we're hitting on each thing. This was the thing I knew from a child, is seeing his behavior. It was like a teenager. It was definitely like a teenager. Yes, there you go. So lots of that stuff. But again, when you are willing to literally show your nephews corn, okay, you guys all know what I'm talking about, at a Chili's in a public setting, and show them that. And I'm not going to tell you who the cousin I was with, but they were 17. I was 21. And all I see is a phone get put over, and all I see is some corn on it, and just like this in your face. And I went, dog, what are you doing? Like, there's no way you don't know better, though. Like, there's no way you don't know that that's just not acceptable at all. And then also, we're in a effing restaurant. You just sat down. It's been 20 minutes since you got out of your truck and we picked you up and we stopped to eat. And you're already like doing this kind of thing. Like, you got to chill the frick out, man. You got to chill out. There's no reason to be doing that. Like that I'll never forget how angry I was, because I'm like, look, they're 17. Number one, they're 17. I might be 21, and you're our freaking 4-year-old something uncle. It doesn't matter how old I am or he is, but you need to chill the frick out, and you never do that again. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. I don't know. So yes, we're going to get past that part. Okay, now this is going to be the part of the video where I give you the most unfactual piece from my part, okay? Early behavioral problems. Most psychopaths exhibit behavioral problems at an early age. They may cheat, skip school, vandalize property, misuse substances, or become violent. A psychopath misbehaviors tend to escalate over time and are more serious than their peers' misbehaviors. I don't have too many okay, let me rephrase what I'm saying. I don't know for a fact about what he was doing to this point. What I do know is that he got into that bad accident at a young age, which I don't know if that was them, a group of friends messing around. I don't know what that was exactly. The reality is, a lot of those behaviors, I think, already existed. And I believe that he would have definitely had some emotional hindrances as a young man, and would probably lead to some serious issues. And guess what? We're going to talk. If you guys stick around to the end, I got a great announcement, and we have a frick this shirt and a frick this mug. And I'm not kidding. I just fixed it up. I just got it up for you guys. I changed. I'll save it for the end. I love you guys, but I'll save it for the end. Okay. So please stick around, because I have a big announcement for you at the end. Okay. Lack of realistic long-term goals. Now, this goes into exactly what we talked about: marriage, career, what you're going to do next. There was absolutely none of this. So I'm going to read what it says right here. A psychopath's goal might to become rich or famous, but quite often have little idea about how to make these things happen. Instead, they insist that somehow they'll get what they want by putting in the effort without putting in the effort to get there. I believe that he thinks that his comedy was funny enough to make it. Maybe that's why he did comedy. This is why, and I need you guys to understand that this is seriously like this is some weird stuff right now. Like he is such an anomaly. I need you to understand how I viewed him my whole life is such an outsider because he was such a different type of person compared to everyone else. And that's why it's such a weird thing to think back to is what was really going on with him that whole time. Because I knew from a young age that he was the outsider. I felt that, I saw it, it was there. It's just what it was. So he didn't have a long term goal in any shape or form that I ever knew of, right? I think he didn't even know how to think that way because the relationships were all quick and fast. You know, I don't know how many girls I met that were from a different country. You know, the careers, nothing. There was no grounding in him. He had no foundation. And again, this goes into Lori and that whole them being so similar in that way, but it's that constantly you never put concrete down. You never build where you are. You're always looking for the next place to run and go. And that leads to a lifetime of messes because you're never going to have what you want. You're always pitching a tent and you're never building a house. So that's one of those things where he didn't have a place where I think he was even thinking realistic goals at all. I don't even know how he thought at all, but I know that he did not have, he wasn't someone you knew was working on his career or trying to get better, or, you know, he kind of just did what he did. I think he just existed, right? Impulsivity. This one we're going to talk a little bit. We'll talk about it. Psychopaths respond to things according to the way they feel. They don't spend time thinking about the potential risks and the benefits of their choices. Instead, a psychopath wants immediate gratification. So they may quit a job, end a relationship, or move to a new city and buy a new car on a whim. And that is 100% yes. So that's exactly what we just talked about. I mean, the impulsivity of that is you do everything on your emotion. And this is what we talked about so many times on this channel is the emotions are need to be recognized, but emotions should not be your leaders because emotions change. Emotions are fleeting. You can have a really good feeling for 30 minutes or a couple days and then things drop, right? You know, there's so many ways we could discuss this exact point, but yes, he was impulsive and he did things based off how he felt without thought and, you know, true thinking through problems. There was no problem solving that I noticed. Irresponsibility. Promises don't mean anything to a psychopath, whether they promise to repay a loan or sign a contract. They aren't trustworthy. They may shrug off child support payments, go deeply in debt, and forget about obligation and commitments. Psychopaths don't accept responsibility for the problems in their lives. They see their issues as always being someone else's fault. Psychopaths frequently play the role of the victim and enjoy sharing stories about how often others have taken advantage of them. I have never experienced this with him. He is irresponsible for so many different reasons, but not by the definition of what that exactly said. The irresponsibility was what I told you about. No boundaries. I don't know. He was actually more than anything more of a loyal person that people would use to come and do something. So a lot of times he wasn't, I wouldn't consider him flaky. I'd actually consider him more like someone you can actually rely on to come and do something, like help you move, those kind of things in the beginning. I think he was someone that if you asked him to do something, you could probably rely on him to show up. So I wouldn't really say, at least by this definition, irresponsible, but I told you the irresponsibility of not understanding adult things, right? Not understanding boundaries and crossing them constantly. And exactly, that's actually true. You're right. He did. So, but also remember, this is another point we're going to have to talk about at some point is what was going through their mind. Do they meet the criteria? And then what was going through their mind when they did what they did? Because that also plays a factor. Being a psychopath and having a belief system are two different things. So we're going to get into that as well. Many marital relationships. Back to what we talked about earlier, psychopaths may get married because it serves them well. For example, they might want to spend their partner's income, share their debt with someone else. Their behavior often leads to frequent divorces, as psychopath partners will eventually see them in a more accurate light. Truth, yes. I mean, from what I know, I think Alex got married twice. Okay, so twice. Because he got married twice, I don't know why and again, this is not a place where I'm going to go and speculate about this relationship. We already know, you guys know how I feel about this with him marrying Zulema. That is whatever reason they did that. I'm never going to understand it. So we're not even going to dive into that. But yes, he obviously wanted to be married to her at the end, but he went a very long time. I think he got married when he was really young, got a divorce. I don't know anything about that situation. But going through his whole life that I knew him, he was in these power dynamic relationships with women from other countries that would fly to him. He'd fly to them, he'd bring them back, and then usually dump them, from what I remember. So it wasn't something that he was looking for a marriage. And again, you guys know LDS culture is about, get married. So he definitely probably was that whole time constantly feeling pressure or feeling a way about getting married and just didn't do it. He was just constantly doing what he had to do. And I don't know, but he was married twice that we know. So criminal versatility. Psychopaths tend to view rules as suggestions. They usually see laws as restrictions that hold them back. Their criminal behaviors can be quite varied: driving infractions, financial violations, the acts of violence, and just a few examples of array of crimes a psychopath might commit. Yeah, 100%. That's not a question. He literally has so many things that he had done in different ways, and so it's pretty clear that applies. I mean, I don't even we don't even need to go into it. We already know how many things that he did. Okay. So I'm going to pull up our next list, and I'm going to pull up the list that we made. Okay. Because I want you guys to see, and we're going to check him off, and we're going to go into depth right here, right now, because now we're going to talk about the belief system, the influence, and did these factors exist, or were these created by Chad and Lori? Were these created by your belief system? Can you believe yourself to be a psychopath? And that's what we're going to get into right now. Okay. So we're going to share this. There we go. You love taking your sweet time, don't you? All right. So superficial charm, I would say no. Yes, in the end. Pathological lying, we're going to give a yes. Conning and manipulative, we're going to say yes to that. Lack of remorse, I mean, I need to put all caps in here. Yes. Shallow effect, absolutely. Okay. Callous lack of empathy, yes. Failure to accept responsibility for actions, yes. Because he lied about Charles. We know that. Need for stimulation, prone to boredom, yes. We know that for a fact. Parasitic lifestyle, yes. Poor behavioral controls, absolutely. Early behavioral problems before 12. Don't have enough information. We can leave that blank. Lack of long-term goals, yes. Impulsivity, yes. Irresponsibility, yes. Don't know about this. Never had that. And yes. So, damn. It's a lot different than I thought. Actually answering the questions. Now, again, you guys know I'm doing this with you. Like, I wrote this stuff down, but I was waiting to read it, put in a context for you. And those make more sense now than what we did. So could we sit here and say that it's possible that Alex Cox was a psychopath? Absolutely. I mean, if this were the ranking system, I'm pretty sure we could give a pretty good idea that he is. I mean, the PCL-R test needs a certain amount of points on it. And it actually depends on where you are in the country or in the world to be like different ranking systems of like 25 or 30. So you have to have a 30 score in America to be considered a psychopath. And I think in other places it might be 25. So we could easily go in and tell you guys right here. I mean, And I'm not, you guys heard me why I have reasons for this. Um, that's what it is. Now, what I want to tell you guys on each one of these things, right? Um, this is what's gonna, I think, gonna change the context for you guys. So again, growing up, Alex was somebody who had been on the outside. He came back in, he showed up every once in a while. He's kind of one of those people who literally drifted in. I saw him more as an adult. So 18 up is when I saw Alex the most in my life. He showed up right before my wedding, got really close with Lori. And I'm telling you, this was odd to me, but not in an odd way. It was, what's the word? Because people ask me this question all the time about their relationship, and I'll get into that second. But it was just noticeable because Alex wasn't someone who was around. So all of a sudden, your uncle is just like there. It's just noticeable. He's at the house more often when you show up. That's just not like something that he does. So it's obviously like, dang, they're getting really close, was my thought. I'm getting ready to get married. We have our wedding. And after we left, he helped clean up all this stuff. I move out with Kelsey, within a week. We were still sick from our honeymoon. So we got sick on our honeymoon. We were still sick when we moved. So yeah, it was very close to when we got home. We start living our life. And I don't know exactly what's going on in the background, but Alex is at the house more often. This is the perception that I have. Okay. Alex is at the house more often, and Lori is getting way more spiritual. Okay. And we're going to use that word very clearly here. Yes, getting more spiritual. Okay. After they got closer, they moved from the house that Kelsey and I got married at, and they moved over into Chandler at the end of the year, because we had Christmas 2018 was the last Christmas I ever saw my family as a whole. We were all there. And then after that, they moved to a different house. And within, that January, February time is when everything happened with Lori and Charles, and they broken up and all this started. So Alex, again, recluses again. I don't know what's going on with Alex. I don't know. And that's not really my primary focus at all. It's Lori, it's Tylee, it's JJ, it's Charles. My family split up. Now Charles took JJ to Houston. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know where she's at. Then Tylee comes home, and I'm like, Tylee, what is going on? She's staying at Alex's house, and she tells me that they'd been in Hawaii, and all these things are going on at once, right? Again, I had not seen Alex since, and I'm serious, I'm thinking all the way through. I don't think I've seen Alex since before Lori moved to Houston. No, that's not true. I saw Alex I think in July at some, yes. Okay. So I'm sorry. What am I talking about? I saw Alex in July, the day he killed Charles. And then after that, I don't think I saw Alex ever again. So you need to understand, the last time I had contact with him, he had gone from a creepy uncle kind of dude to being the murderer of my father. So that's the last time I saw him, was the day that he killed Charles in July. The last time I saw him normal was way before that. So you need to understand, that's what it is. I saw him as a normal person along the beginning of the year. And then the next time I saw him was my mom had moved back, and that's where he was. He was there. So I didn't see there was no progression of wild behavior. There was nothing I could have noticed about him. I didn't know what was going on. Lori was the one that was being crazy. Lori's the one that's moving around. Lori's the one who's doing all that, right? And you're not paying attention to Alex. Alex has always been kind of the side character. Alex has always been the one that you're not paying attention to. Following that, I never saw Alex again. That's it. So you have to understand, there was no actual progression for me. Now with Lori, it's different, and that's a whole nother topic for another time. But even she was way more in the background. See, I didn't know how much was happening in the background. And the more that I learned in our trials, the more pain that it brought, but the more understanding I have when I watch other trials is people don't understand that these changes happen, but at the same time, the psychopath tendencies, when those exist already, you know that for a very long time. Now, the religious belief we can get into, the religious belief is this. I think the religious belief now that they use the religious belief, Chad and Lori use a religious belief to justify what they wanted to do. So they have their own diagnoses that we went through on this, and we're going to do Lori's at some other time, right? But the lack of empathy, you don't just, I don't think you gain that. I don't think you really develop some of these traits. Some of these traits always existed because when people do the unthinkable, a lot of times those people do not have a complex there. There's no issue. They're not losing sleep. They're not eating. They're living their life as if nothing happened. And if no one bothered them, those type of people will continue to do so. So I tell you all of that because when it comes down to it, I believe that Alex had always had a lot of the psychopath tendencies. And when he was introduced to the idea that he was this higher spiritual being that was destined, let's use that word because that's exactly how they made him feel, destined to be this horrible executioner. That is exactly what fed off of the psychopath tendencies that already existed inside of him. So what you really have is a series of events where they manipulated someone. And again, I do think Alex was very, very manipulative. Or no, I'm sorry. Alex was very easy to manipulate, very gullible. And I do believe, in my assessment of everything I've looked at, that Alex was the most believing of the religious beliefs. He was actually the most committed because of his self-worth issues, because of those tendencies that we went through. He believed more than anybody else because he heard it from two other people. And when he carried out what he did, the thing that allowed him to do it was his psychopath tendencies mixed with his religious ideals that all came together to create a storm here. And the reason we talk about this stuff, okay, the reason why we have to talk about these things is I am watching more cases, and you realize that these tendencies in people are actually able to be seen early on for psychopaths, at least, because we can look at behaviors and behavior of people mixed with the right thing. Okay, I hate to use the word right, but it's the perfect match, the perfect thing that causes them to be activated into this place, whether it's anger or whatever it is always these self issues. These self issues. And again, not every psychopath is a criminal or will do criminal things. It's just to bring that awareness. And it's just to make sure that people understand that there's mixtures, there's reasons to people why this happens, but it'll never make sense. No matter how much we dive in it, we're never going to be like, oh, well, Alex knew this, and so he did this because of this. And even if we knew every dot, it still would be like, how the hell did he do that? Because of the psycho tendencies, because he didn't care, because he had no empathy. This was a pattern of his life. And so when he did what he did at the highest level, it didn't affect him because those things already existed. He already had a lack of empathy. He already was able to disassociate. He already had that. So it's not like there's just, oh, this person's crazy. There's always reasons, and we have to dive into those things. That's what these deep dives are for. And again, I love this. I love that you said that. This stuff is really important about the human psychology and understanding. We're in a point where this mental health is at its highest peak of, I would say, degeneration. We're at the worst place in mental health ever. And we're not talking about it. And it's causing people who have these let's call it a condition or whatever you want to call it, but whatever it is, it's a pre-existing condition that gets amplified by something. Okay. And a lot of times it's self issues. The more that you actually research a lot of the crimes, it's self issues that cause people to do this kind of stuff. It's self issues because people who are filled with love and light and all that stuff, they do not go out and do these things for a reason because their heart isn't like that. So it's just not going to it's not going to exist, man. It's not going to make any sense for someone who feels loved and cared for. Now, I'm going to go ahead and be 100% honest. Okay. You can also go through trauma, physical, mental, and it can change you, especially physical. Like we talked about earlier, somebody mentioned earlier in the live that physical trauma to your brain can cause behavioral issues, change your brain, the way that you think. The other thing is, though, we always have a choice. And I truly believe that Alex Cox had a choice of what he was willing to do for his sister, what he was willing to do for his religious beliefs. These were choices because at the end of the day, regardless of what anybody said, you get to a point where you're standing at a path. And I believe this is God's right to us. He gave us this ability to do this. You get to a crossroad every decision you make in your life, and you have two ways to go, and you get to choose really what happens because no one would have forced Alex to do that. He wanted to do it for some sick, deluded reason. He wanted to do it for whatever he believed in. And this is the point. Every time that you get to a point, you can make a good or bad decision. It is just that simple. Everything we do is about decision making. And he did not have to do it. And a lot of the psychopaths that do what they do still are aware of the decision. They might not understand the full effect of it. They might not care, but there is still an awareness of decision making. And I've seen it because now that I've done more research, I've seen people who plot and plan to do mass M's, okay, on a whole group of people because they're so sick inside that they want that pain to be hurt. They want others to hurt. They want to bring pain to others because of how they feel. So it's their inner issues and their decision making that because it's so constant, because they haven't dealt with it, and because of what they already have on top of the issues that they're having, they're willing to go out and do things and hurt other people for that reason. And that's why we talk about this stuff, is to address the mental side of this and to understand what is really going on. Anyway, thank you guys, and I love you. Thank you for all you guys who were here to listen to my analysis. This is what I came up with, and I spent some serious time on this, and it was hard emotionally, but I do believe that there's a lesson to be learned here. And it's, even if there is someone who exhibits or has these psychopath tendencies, you still don't make these decisions. There's always decisions in life, and please just remember that there are decisions that you can make in your life. I do have one announcement for anybody who is going to stick around for me. We fixed the merch, okay? And I'm so excited. I'm going to pull up the merch for you guys right now. I am like geeking out because we had a partnership that was not going well. And it was, I'm not going to say the company because I'm not going to get into that, but we had a lot of issues with our merch. And for everybody who is having issues, I've done everything I can. I've reached out and I've told them, I've sent, order numbers. I've done everything that I possibly can to fix it, but I just pulled our old store and fixed it. We now are partnered. Okay. We are now live on Fourth Wall. I made you a frick this shirt, guys. And I had to share this with you on here real quick before you go. I made a frick this shirt. I went and made this whole thing for you. So we've got a chain breaker hat right here. Let me make this bigger. Oh, you guys can see it. Chain breaker shirts. I made a high quality H2O. We got a frick this mug with the Star Wars. We made a beanie. I love this one. All these you're going to see me wearing. So we got our Star Wars hat, our sweaters, we're going to have new drops. So when we do new drops for you guys, I'm going to have Kelsey and I working on this stuff. We'll let you know. We're going to have so many different things on the store, and I can't wait because it's going to reflect our community. And so I can't wait. I'm actually, you know what? I'm just going to tell it to you guys. I'm going to put a post out there I want you guys to come up with a community name, a name for the community that we can put on the shirt. So that way you guys have your own name of the community. And that way we can make a shirt for you guys and have it, because I will wear it too. And I will love that. So I'll put that up on the community tab for you guys, so you guys have it. I love my favorite design that I made was this one. Everything that we make is to basically reflect something real about what we do on this channel. So I love the Reclaim Your Life, and I love Scarred and Beautiful, because that's what we are, man. We are just we're living with our scars, and they're part of us. But I just had to show you guys this because I was so excited to like actually tell you and fix this. This is a really great company, and we have all of our stuff coming as well. So you'll see me in all this stuff. So this is just the beginning. I wanted to get all this out to you. And just so you guys could see it. So that was the big announcement for everybody who was patient. Now, I have one other announcement for you. I've been watching Grease for effing 5 nights. Okay. That means every time Kelsey falls asleep, which is very fast, she falls asleep and I turn it off and I'm taking notes. I have unbelievable amount of notes. I am almost done with Grease 2. And this is all going to be on Pop Culture Poppy, but I'm telling you, this is like a huge breakdown of Grease and Grease 2. It's going to be super, super long because you cannot believe how many notes I have. So I think that's going to be a major video that we do. And I cannot wait to hear your guys' opinions. I already know where you're leaning, but you're going to have to just listen. Okay. Listen to me. Trust the process. I was critical of both movies. I have been very fair, and I've only pointed out facts. I'm not coming in here as a piece of garbage. I'm being very fair. So just trust me on that. You'll see. Okay. I can't wait for my Frick This shirt, man. I actually have you guys sent me a Frick This shirt. So we made our official Frick This shirt. I can't wait for that. And I have a Frick This mug, because you guys just, I mean, that's one of the main things you guys love is the Fricks. So I'm super excited about that. But anyway, I appreciate you guys and love you. We have one more live before I am going to be gone this weekend. All the other lives this weekend are going to be from CrimeCon. There's a lot going on. There's a big itinerary and all that stuff. So there's going to be a lot of that happening. So I will let you guys know the most on the community tab. I'll just update you, or we might just go live while we're there. So I'm working on all that stuff, but I love you and appreciate you. Thank you guys for being part of this video. You guys are amazing, man. You guys are just absolutely amazing. And please we're going to come up with a name for our community just so we can put it on our shirt and wear it, because I'm going to wear it as well, as I told you. And I have a long drive up there. I'm going to drive 12 hours and get to Denver, and it's going to be crazy. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there as well. Anybody who's going to be there, I'll let you know what our schedule looks like, but I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see you guys. So it's going to be good. Yes. Community name. We just need a name. We just need a good name that you guys feel that we agree on. So once we get a couple of names down and you guys start really agreeing with names, we'll do a poll. And after we do a poll, we will actually poll out which one, and then we'll have a winner. And then that will be the thing that we're going to put on the shirts, and we'll make a really cool design, and we'll all call our community that thing. So I'm super excited about that. I'm really excited about it. But I love you guys. I will see you very soon. I appreciate you and love you and thank you. And I will see you guys very soon. Have a great rest of your day or night.